have yet to see photos of Sarah or Samantha Peterson. No arrests made in this particular case. Can you comment, a two-part question here? One, are Samantha and Sarah Peterson identical twins? And two, regardless that answer, how much do they look alike, and how did that make this case more complex in terms of trying to figure out identities?
It's a good question. I appreciate it. I'm going to add a third answer to that, but I'll start with, yes, they are identical twins. It added a lot of complexity. It allowed them to essentially change roles before our first deputy arrived. As you read in the criminal complaint, Sarah was on scene a short time before our first deputy arrived. That allowed them to come up with this story where Sarah would take responsibility for the crash and start to mislead the investigation from that very point. Now, the first comment that you had made about no booking photos and not seeing any arrests is correct. And I'm glad you brought that up. That's an important thing to talk about here today. People want to know if they're going to be held accountable, if there's been an arrest made. It's really important, I think, to describe what kind of investigation we have here. We have a lot of pieces of evidence in this case that take a very long time to come back to us, to analyze, and to get submitted to the county attorney's office so that we can ensure that we have a full and complete investigation submitted for prosecution. Some of those things are multiple search warrants, blood test results, cell phone analysis data, both on location and communication information. We were looking for an advanced crash reconstruction report from a state patrol investigator who helps us with those sorts of things. And that report takes several weeks. An analysis of different components of that vehicle that tell us information about the vehicle before the crash. All of those things take a very long time to get back. It's important for us to wait for those things before we start these legal proceedings. Because if we were to make an arrest right away because we think we know what happened, that starts this court process. If this were to go to trial before we have all of that evidence back, we risk losing this case, and that's not an option for us.
You mentioned all of that, Sheriff, and I know in a high-profile case like this, social media obviously is a buzz, and a lot of people are saying, one, why did it take so long? And two, why are Sarah and Samantha Peterson still not behind bars? You mentioned that a little bit, but from a law enforcement perspective, and as the sheriff of this county, what is your message to the general public about letting justice work its course and putting their faith in you as the law enforcement officers to do your job right, and weighing that balance of people want answers, specifically the Miller family, but you have to do your job, as you said, thoroughly and wait sometimes?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the answer is, I appreciate that people are paying attention. It shows that people care about what goes on and they want answers and they want accountability, both from people who are involved in something like this and from their law enforcement. So the answer is we have to do the right thing. If we were to start this preliminarily and we get this into court and we don't have everything ready to go and we go to trial and we lose that, that's a whole lot harder question to answer to the public when a suspect walks than it is to take a little extra time. Why they're still not behind bars, we have to reach a certain level of proof before the court will give us arrest warrants, which is what we wanted to do in this case when we presented this to the county attorney and they presented to the court. The court felt that we did not meet that standard for arrest warrants, and the court has specific criteria to have to go by. It is listed out pretty specifically. It's something that isn't just up to one person's discretion, but there's rules that have to be followed.
How often do you see a family member or friend try to take the fall for somebody else?
It's very rare, especially in such a serious case as this.
And then can you just talk to me, a lot of people that I've talked to just about the safety of County 1. Can you just talk to me about some of the issues that have come about over the years with that road?
Yeah, County Road 1 was redone several years ago. It's a very nice road. It's wide. The county did a great job doing it. It's also a cut across road that a lot of people will take instead of going down Highway 63. It's a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. A lot of people think it's higher, so people drive sometimes too fast on that road. And it's just a very large volume of traffic. There's also an Amish community that lives in that road and that uses that road, as we know, in buggies. And that takes a whole nother level of responsibility from drivers and motor vehicles to be aware of that.
Sheriff, we know that both Sarah and Samantha Peterson have had past run-ins with law enforcement, both in Fillmore County and elsewhere. They've also been found convicted of a fake identity situation in the past. Knowing that they were on your radar and that they have done this before, did that help raise a red flag and make you a little skeptical of this, knowing a little bit of background about these two sisters?
Once the investigation proceeded into the next stage after that first investigation at the scene, when we start digging into who we're dealing with, yeah, that was something that would have raised our suspicion.
So going back real quickly to my question about identical twins, is it difficult to tell them apart? I mean, when you see them, does the average person, can you tell?
It is difficult to tell them apart.
And then one final question that I have is just, as the case moves forward, different theories will be presented if it goes to trial and so forth. But the fact of the matter is 2 young children are dead. That's a fact. In your dealings with Sarah and Samantha Peterson, have you had any direct comments from them or your investigators that they are remorseful for this? Have they shown any signs of remorse? Are they understanding that 2 lives were taken because of one of their actions?
I don't think that, I understand the question, but I don't think that's a question that would be appropriate for me to answer here right now with the case where it's at.
I was just going to ask, what are the next steps of this investigation? I mean, where are we going next with this?
So the case, both sisters have been charged. They'll receive a court date. I don't know what that is yet. And after their first court date, then we'll know a little bit more. But it's just getting started here now. For their initial appearance will be the next step.
And then I just have one final question. I know there's a lot of cars that drove up on the scene right after it happened. How big were some of the witnesses in this investigation?
As you read through the criminal complaint, which is a public document, you'll see that the witness information was very important for us. And it will be important going forward.
I know I said that was my last, but if you allow me one more. Communication with the Miller family. Can you comment at all about your department's involvement with them, keeping them abreast of the situation? And can you provide us any information on when they were told that charges would be coming? We talked with the Millers. The Amish community, justice is not something that they quote unquote seek. They were seeking an apology in this case, which prompted my previous question. But have they been informed, and how has that communication process been going from your standpoint?
I want to be respectful of the family in this case and not talk about our specific communications, but we do make sure that we inform them as we move forward.
All right.
Sheriff, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.